Hey everyone, this is Neon Polygons, and today I want to show you my Arcade1up mod of my Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition machine. Now typically most people tend to mod their machines with a Raspberry Pi, but I opted with something a little bit more powerful with a micro ATX PC inside. The reason I want to do this was because, quite simply, I want to be able to run emulators that a Raspberry Pi tends to have difficulty with. So right now I'm showing Marvel vs. Street Fighter. It's not really a game that a Raspberry Pi tends to struggle with, but I just want to show you here on a micro ATX PC that it generally runs pretty smooth, and you'll still get pretty much an arcade perfect experience. That sometimes that with a Raspberry Pi 2 and 3 that it tends to kind of have some hiccups with. So really nothing out of the ordinary right now. I'm really kind of just trying to show you guys that on a micro ATX PC, Street Fighter or any of the CPS2 games tend to run pretty well. So now I'm actually going to quite step up the game, and I'm actually going to run Killer Instinct on main. Now, generally speaking, with Killer Instinct, it's only recently that Raspberry Pi 3s have tended to catch up and be able to run this game a little bit more efficiently. Now, as you'll see here, it's running quite smooth, no problems. Now, I'm actually not using any pieces or hardware that's actually quite recent. I'm actually using stuff from, I would say, 8 years ago at this point. When I modded my Arcade1up, I actually used very cheap parts, parts that probably cost me a total of probably only, I would say, $40. Now, here's really where a Raspberry Pi can't do. And right now I'm running kind of, I would say, semi-recent PC games. And what you'll see here is I'm running Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and you'll notice that it's running just a little bit over 70 frames per second. So really no issues here, no problems. And so what I did was, I'm using a setup that is, again, like I said, about 7 or 8 years ago. And I'm running purely Windows XP, and I stripped out pretty much everything, so it's only running Hyperspin as my front end to run a host of emulators, including, obviously MAME, but also other emulators such as Dreamcast and Dolphin, things that can essentially run stuff in 1080. And as you'll see here, it looks great on an Arcade1up with using the monitor that it came with the machine. And as I'm flipping here through the character selection menu, you'll notice that again, there's no hiccups, there's no pauses, no slowdown. Everything is kind of running pretty smooth. So how did I all set this up? Well, quite cheaply actually. I'm using the same exact monitor from my Arcade1up, so I kept that in there, and I just changed the joysticks and the buttons to a bat top and some Sanwa, but it literally cost me less than $20. Looking inside my setup, what I did was I just basically put a board in there across the two panels to hold essentially a micro ATX PC. It's an ASUS motherboard and a ASUS graphics card, along with a Intel processor from I'd say maybe 8 years ago. It's powered by a mini power supply, and for the controls, I'm using an I-pac for the setup interface. Reason being is I just want something a little bit more flexible controls that work better with MAME, in my opinion. This is all really being powered by really just 2 plugs. One plug to go into the motherboard and one plug for the monitor. So really not a lot to actually get this setup going. Now, as for the sound, what I'm actually using is a USB Bluetooth speaker. So these are kind of like those cheap speakers that you can just find on eBay for literally like $10. But it's being powered by USB into the motherboard, and I just literally just keep it on, and I put it a 3.5 millimeter, I guess, audio wire from that into the input of the motherboard, just for sound. And honestly, it does the job. It actually gets me like really great bass. It sounds really loud, and nothing shaky in there. And so again, like what I'm just showing you here is just like, again, just 2 plugs into a power switch, and that's pretty much it. So this entire setup, I would say, into my Arcade1up, I probably did it for around like maybe less than $50. And it's something that I feel like, if you really want to get the most out of your Arcade1up mods, I think this is really the way to go because you'll have more flexibility and, more emulators that you can run. Essentially, I'm running maybe about 70,000 games. I'm not really joking with that. 70,000 games that are running here across a multitude of emulators dating back to literally uh, Atari 2600 all the way to more recent PC games on this machine. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on my Arcade1up mod, and if you think a micro ATX PC is preferable than a Raspberry Pi. Thanks again for watching, and see you all soon.